Ladies and gentlemen, Violent Games here. Today, I wanted to talk about E3 2018. From the lens of the console wars, of course. I am a console gamer primarily. That's Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation 4. I don't own the Xbox, I own the Switch and the 4, but you get what I'm saying. I don't own the PC Master Race. Yes, all of your games run better. We know. We know PC Master Race. Yes, PC Master Race. We know. We know you can fucking aim better with mouse and keyboard, PC Master Race. Yes, we know you run at 140 hertz. We're proud. We're proud. We're all proud. But anyways, we're here to talk about console peasantry, and more so the infighting of console peasantry. So without further ado, let's talk about E3 2018 through the console peasant's lens. So, I mean, guys, it's over. It's over. It's completely over. Sony won. Sony won this entire generation. Like, let me just be frank. Xbox has not even been close to being in the lead. They kind of had some exclusives earlier on, but none of those exclusives were worth a damn compared to Sony's exclusive library. And that is definitely a continuing trend in E3 2018. However, not to say it was overall a bad conference for Microsoft, but let's just look at these games. Let's go over the exclusive content. Let's ignore all the third-party nonsense. Let's ignore all the third-party games. Because while there are a lot of third-party games at E3 that are awesome, like the Resident Evil 2 remake, holy shit, I'm so hyped, guys. I didn't even know that game was coming out. I've heard like rumors of that game for a while, but the fact that it's in the Resident Evil 4 over-the-shoulder camera with some more traditional survival horror mechanics thrown in there with a completely reimagined game. By the way, I never even played Resident Evil 2, so I'm even more hyped for it. So, guys, so many reasons to be hyped for third party, but before I say we shouldn't talk about it, then I talk about it. But anyhow, moving on. Let's talk about the exclusive content, because that's the only thing that really matters at E3. We're looking at which system you need to experience the best that gaming has to offer right now. So PS4, you got Last of Us 2. It looks amazing. The graphics look incredible. The gameplay looks violent, bloody, gory, and visceral. I love the photorealistic facial animations, how human Ellie looks and the one girl looked, and you know, everything just looks so beautiful in the trailer, and the action and the gameplay felt so real. The way the characters would interact with their environment as they went was really cool as well. But the only question I have for the Last of Us 2 trailer was definitely how much of that was scripted and how much of that was not scripted. Like, how much of that was based on what the player was doing at the time. Like, how much of the game was actually responding to the player. Like, for example, if she would have killed those guys more efficiently, would that group would have regrouped with the other group? Sorry, that's a lot of groups. Would those groups have met up and had that same dialogue? Or if Ellie had killed them in that gameplay, would the tone be different? Like, the people there wouldn't know she was there initially because she would have gotten there furtively. So those are some questions I have. You know, how much of the game, or how much of that demo rather, was scripted? And also, where are the undead? We didn't really see any of the undead, any of the spore carriers or anything like that. It's kind of disappointing. I wanted to see more. Also, no presence of multiplayer either. I'm so hyped for Last of Us, guys. It's like my game of show. But yes, I would have liked to have seen more, or at least a release date. But, oh man, it looks good. It looks beautiful. So then there's Death Stranding on the PlayStation side. I'm confused and less hyped for this project. I went into the E3 being more hyped for Death Stranding than almost anything at the show. I'm a huge survival horror fan, but leaving that game, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what the gameplay is going to be. I don't know what the story is. I don't even know the general premise of this game. The only thing I can kind of deduce is that life, I guess, is some kind of energy source, because, you know, you had the baby powering the light. That's it. That's the only thing I can kind of guess about the universe about Death Stranding. But to be honest, I was more annoyed than hyped or intrigued watching this trailer. I just want to know what the game's about so I can know if I should be interested or not, you know? They didn't really sell me on that one. So then we have a game that kind of blew me out of the water. Ghost of Tsushima. Talk about a game I didn't give two shits about when I heard about it. They're like, it's some sort of samurai game. I immediately thought it was some weeb shit and dismissed it. That was a huge mistake because this game looks incredible. Just the gameplay. Like, I don't need to say anything more. The graphics look amazing. The gameplay looks amazing. I like the, it looks like combat is going to have more impact to it, and I bet you there's going to be some nice difficulty settings to where you can really make it, like, do or die to be good at the combat, and I really am interested in playing that. It kind of had some For Honor vibes to it, though the camera angles were a bit more dynamic. The game looks really cinematic and fun, and the gameplay looks really polished. So Ghost of Tsushima, especially if you think feudal Japan is like a beautiful setting, you need to have this game. It looks absolutely beautiful. That is a day one buy. Just like Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima is a day one buy, and it's a reason to be excited to own a PlayStation, especially a Pro if you have one. And then finally, we have Spider-Man. That's the last noteworthy game I think Sony really came out with. Everything else I just kind of glossed over, and then there was third-party announcements, which were good. Resident Evil 2. Anyhow, we have Spider-Man. I'm not a fan of Spider-Man. I don't really like the character. I don't get it, but I'm hyped for this game. Watching this trailer really, like, revealed to me why some people probably like Spider-Man. I liked his witty commentary, his on-the-fly jokes as he's beating up bad guys. The way the combat works is very similar to Arkham, but it feels more appropriate for Spider-Man because he's more of an agile character. Furthermore, it seems that they're going to put further emphasis on web-slinging and combat being a little more nuanced than just, you know, the Arkham standard punching system. There's going to be web-slinging moves and ultimates and things of that nature. So I'm really excited for Spider-Man. The game looks really incredible for everything I've seen both in and out of E3. The game looks gorgeous, and Insomniac is very passionate about this project, it seems, and they really like Spider-Man, and you can tell they're trying to communicate their love of Spider-Man through this game. Like, you can just tell it oozes out of the game, and it's so appealing. Like, I really, really liked Sony's exclusives. Now, their presentation was terrible. I think Sony didn't focus on games. Instead, they had gimmicks and musical numbers and shit. That part of Sony's E3 press conference definitely made me a little worried for Sony's future because they weren't focusing on games as much, which has been the salient point. But they had the products, and I feel like they ultimately stole the show for me. Now, Nintendo isn't even a horse in this race. I just wanted to mention before we move on because they only really showed Smash, and I'm sorry, Smash is a party game. Smash is not a game that most people, most casual gamers are going to sit at home and play constantly and get good at. If you're into the competitive scene, that game you would be fucking hyped off the tits for. But if you're not, it's a party game. It's like a game of Mario Kart, you know? You could have Mario Kart right now, in fact, so it's like, whatever. So, let's move on to Xbox. So, first off, Xbox announces they bought a ton of studios from a bunch of different places, honestly. One of them is noteworthy to me, being Ninja Theory. They did the Ninja Gaiden ports, and they also did Senua's Sacrifice. I think they're incredible. I think they really are. Ninja Theory making Senua's Sacrifice such a transformative work. It reminded me of why gaming is art, and why the story of a game can definitely be the predominant feature and really sell a game. So I think that them acquiring Senua's Sacrifice developers, really smart on Microsoft's move. And let's be honest, if you're a Microsoft consumer, you know you need Xbox to make you some games. So this is a good announcement for Xbox as a brand. Makes them look better in my eyes. So then we get announced that Halo Infinite is going to be a game. Maybe on Xbox One X, maybe on the next Xbox. I honestly couldn't tell you. They didn't give us any gameplay. They didn't show a release date or anything. We know next to nothing about Halo Infinite. We don't even know if the game's a first-person shooter, for fuck's sake. So, there's that. Then we have the new Gears of War game. I don't remember what numbered entry this Gears game is in, or if it's even a numbered entry, or if it's called something else. But there's a new Gears of War game. It looks about the same as the other Gears of War games, but the gameplay looks polished. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good action game. I'm sure the 4K resolution mode on the Xbox One X is going to look really, really good for the game. But ultimately, I think the story direction they're kind of taking from the trailer standpoint felt a little off. I felt like the shift of tone between the hard, fast, action paced, gory, visceral, like I'm a beefed up murder machine kind of gameplay to a girl crying just felt really weird to me. And I feel like that they kind of did this because of Sony's recent success with like characters like Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. They need to understand that these games aren't being successful because they're going against certain social norms, and SJW culture is like, oh, we need more women in games. It's not that. It's the fact that these games are good. These games have quality to them. It doesn't matter if you have a female protagonist. That doesn't bring anyone in. A compelling story and narrative does. And good characters, male or female, are going to attract any kind of audience for the most part. You do have these fringe gamers who only want to play as a certain sex in a particular game. And I feel like that's limiting yourself and your mentality, but I can kind of understand from some viewpoints why you would feel that way. It is kind of unimmersive for a man to be beat down by a 19-year-old girl, for example, in Last of Us. Just saying, like, men, if you've put yourself against a 19-year-old girl lately, you could probably kick their ass. Like, I understand why some people kind of feel that way when it comes to the gender issue in gaming right now, but ultimately gamers don't care on that much of a point, so I can kind of see that Microsoft's like, oh, maybe we need to have this female protagonist, but I don't think it's appropriate for Gears. I just don't. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like Gears is more about the hard action and feeling like a badass and having this power fantasy, not really about emotions or getting in touch with your feelings. So I'm not really hyped for the new Gears game. It looks like it would be a solid entry. Maybe the gameplay is probably going to be solid, but you know, you can miss it. You can't miss God of War, though. You can't miss that game. You can miss Gears. So, Crackdown 3. We finally get to see this game. And I haven't been following Crackdown as a series. It could be a side-scroller beat-em-up for all I fucking know. Like, I know next to nothing about Crackdown. I finally get to see this game after it being hyped like a goddamn unicorn. Like, it just this mythical creature of Microsoft that Crackdown 3 will someday come out and it will someday be amazing. We finally get to see the game and it looks like crap. I'm sorry. Like, look for the trailer. Like, literally, if you haven't seen it already, look at Crackdown 3. The game just looks like it was made for last-gen systems. The resolution is terrible. The gameplay doesn't look that polished or that anything new. Like, it almost looks kind of like an entry to a Saints Row game. But, like, apparently it has destructible environments. Terry Crews is like, we can blow stuff up, but he doesn't even sound convinced in the trailer. It's kind of funny, actually. I'd advise you actually pay attention to that, but it just didn't look good. Crackdown 3 has been through development hell. It's kind of like Duke Nukem Forever at this point, and that's what I think it'll ultimately wind up being come February. I think it will be an honest flop. So then, finally, we have Ori 2. This is a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest. It's a good-looking game. It was a good-looking Metroidvania-style game that was really successful. A lot of people had a lot of feelings for it. I'm not particularly interested in the game, and nor will I go out of my way to play it on an Xbox or my friend's Xbox, whatever. It's just an indie game. It's a good one, though. So, I mean, if you're into that, it's cool that it exists, but it's not going to steal the show. So that's really it, guys. Like, the console generation, we all know, is coming to a close. It is. It's ending within the next 2 years, probably, at least. And I think the PlayStation 4 has just won. Like, this is the end of the life cycles. There's no game that Microsoft can come out with now, in my opinion, that would even shift units. Like, they would have to come out with an absolute masterpiece that is, like, so revolutionary and actually lives up to the standards of the One X, and they're never going to do it. It's never going to happen. So, my conclusion, guys, is Sony won. Sony won this console generation. If you don't have a PS4, you are missing out on some of the best games in the last couple of years. I think that is 100% a fact, and yeah, I'm really excited to own a PlayStation for the next year or two. I feel like we have a lot of good things coming to the system. I do not regret my purchase of a PlayStation 4. Like, they really solidified my purchase of a PlayStation 4, and I'm even glad that I wound up getting the Pro as a necessity, really, because my PS4 was dying. But I feel good about still having a PlayStation after all this time. I'm glad to say that. You know, I'm glad Sony continues to make these awesome exclusive games, even though they are kind of similar. But next generation, guys, I feel like there is a lot of potential for an even playing field. I feel like they could both launch with good games. I feel like Xbox having this new focus on gaming or video games as a whole could potentially beat Sony if Sony lets their guard down, because of how overwhelmingly they've just been demolishing Xbox this generation. Like, just absolutely butchering them. So anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this coverage. This is Violent Games signing off. Pissing off. Yeah, I want to make more content just to keep up with some of the people who are still here and who care. I want to post more content, but I'm having trouble deciding which direction I want to take the channel. That's the honest truth. If you want to know where Violent Games has been, we've been moving house. We finally got to the house. New equipment set up, new studio. It's looking good. It's just that I don't know what to make. I'm honestly, I got some writer's block. So I'll probably just do series like this where I just talk about stuff. Let's talk. It'll be a series. Violent Games signing off.